So could you please introduce yourself, tell us who you are and what you do?
Sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me, for having me here. It's a really nice opportunity to talk about our industry and career-wise. Yeah, it's really nice to let people know a little bit about uh, environment art. So, yeah. So my name is Vivian. I'm from Brazil, born and raised, and I'm an environment artist at Behaviour Interactive.
Nice. And Behavior Interactive is located in.
And yeah, I'm currently located in Montreal, Canada.
Yeah. And do you guys only have one studio out there?
No, we do have a studio in Toronto,
Oh, okay.
and we've recently acquired a studio in Seattle called Midwinter.
Oh,
Yes,
cool.
it's
I
a
didn't know
small
that.
studio. Yeah, it's now part of Behavior Interactive, and we also have another unit in the UK.
Cool. So, what games are you playing now?
I'm recently not playing much. As you know, I just came back from a 3 month, not vacation because I was working, but a 3 month long trip in Brazil. And I was staying with my at my mom's. I didn't. Oh, I brought my Switch with me,
Oh,
so
good.
I was playing some Switch games, some Mario. It's something that I always play from time to time. But here at home, I was playing a little bit of God of War and Borderlands 3 that I never got to finish,
Oh,
but it's
nice.
something like on and off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I imagine Borderlands 3 is like a good game you could just like play without having to think too much. Kind of like how I like
Yeah,
COD.
yeah.
Yeah, because Call of Duty after work, if it's like, been a
It
long day,
just
I could just
just
switch
shoot.
switch my brain off and just shoot.
Yeah, pretty much. I think yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I like about this kind of games for sure.
yeah. Yeah, I'm still playing. Yeah, I'm still playing also Horizon Forbidden West, the Burning Shores.
Yeah, I never got to play this game. Everybody says like, oh, it's beautiful, it's wonderful, and I'm like, oh, I should give it a
It's
try.
so good.
Yeah, I have to play more. I have to find time.
It's. I know it must be tough, but I mean, it's just so beautifully done. I mean, just as far as story, and then also just it looks so beautiful, and what they've done with the cinematics, the facial and like the character cinematics is like I don't think I've ever seen it in any other game before. I think it's beautifully done. So, if you could at least check it out online and just see the animation sequences, they look really dope.
Yeah, I want to because yeah, I've seen a little bit about it, and everything looks really really nice. And if you look at it online, the rates like the score, it's everybody just says really nice things about it. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. If it wasn't for Elden Ring and God of War, I think it would have been Game of the Year. But yeah, it was tough. So it's all good. So yeah, let's see. So I'm wondering, how did you get into the gaming industry?
Well, actually, I've always liked playing games, but it wasn't because I was an avid gamer per se. Uh, I was actually it was actually through my partner. Uh, he is an animator in film, so it was through him that I learned about the world of 3D and this kind of this industry. And I've always wanted to work in architecture actually. But I never got to study it. I ended up studying something else. I went to I studied translation interpretation. I did a lot of other things, but I felt I was very frustrated. Um, and then through him, I learned about all the 3D world and how I could become an architect for games.
Yep, that's cool.
And yeah, so that's how I essentially got in the industry. Through him, but then I went to school.
Mm.
He doesn't work in games; he works only in films. But it's let's say it's a sister industry. Oh, my screen keeps turning off.
It's okay. So when you
Yeah.
did you always grow up like being really like someone who's natural at like drawing and things like that, and you were always pretty good like in art classes and stuff?
Uh, I won't say I was always pretty good, but it was something that I've always liked for sure. When I was in high school, I actually studied architectural drawing because I was really into architecture, and I wanted to become an architect. But in the end, you know how teenagers are. I actually applied for industrial design.
Oh yeah, I remember that. I almost went that route too.
Yeah, did you? But yeah, but in the end, I ended up not even studying industrial design. I actually traveled. I went to Japan at the time.
Hmm.
And then when I came back, I studied languages. Maybe it was the phase I was studying languages, and I was into learning new languages, and that's how it went. It's something that I really like to this day. It's a hobby, studying new languages.
Hmm.
But then I felt that as a career, I wanted to work in a more artistic field.
So what languages do you speak?
Well, I speak Portuguese, English, some Spanish, I'd say, and Japanese, but I'm not fluent in Japanese, but I keep studying. I'm half Japanese, but I think I've mentioned to you uh, the other time that we spoke. So it's something that I wanted to learn more and become fluent one day.
That's cool. I think I told you before too that Japan is like one of the places that, you know, my wife and I want to visit for sure. Like that's like number one right now. If we could, you know, find our way over there sometime soon. I think they loosened up their COVID restrictions, right? So I think a lot of people
Yes.
are starting to visit again. Like we were looking online. There's this guy who streams in Japan, and they had like the cherry blossom festival.
Yeah, I think it's about now. Yeah, it's about to finish or right now in May. Yeah.
Yeah, it just seems like such a beautiful place, and you know, it seems like everyone is like really nice, and the food I've heard is really, really good.
Yes.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really awesome. Yeah, I don't know. One of these days we'll make it over there.
Yeah. It's an amazing place. I'm sure you're gonna love it, and it's actually a really good time to travel to Japan.
Yeah.
Because financially speaking, it's much easier to go now.
Mm.
The yen, the currency, it's now about the same as the Canadian dollar. So if you're going, with US dollars, it's even
Oh,
easier
that's
to
good.
travel.
Okay, that's good
Yeah,
to know. I didn't know the conversion, so
yeah. So it's you get to see more places and stay a little bit longer.
that's awesome. Yeah, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. I'm putting it out there.
Yeah.
Gonna make it happen. So, do you have time to actually work on personal projects?
I do. I'm not currently working at any, but personal projects. But I do because luckily, where I work at Behaviour Interactive, my week is 37.5 hours.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, it's seven and a half hours work day.
Mm-hmm.
So I essentially could have I have some time for personal projects. I do want to do at least one this year, hopefully,
Mm-hmm.
because right now I'm picking up more on speed tree. I'm studying more speed tree, and I'm doing more vegetation work
Oh, nice.
um, for my team,
Mm-hmm.
and I really want to be able to be more fluent in the software and also create some interesting vegetation and have it in my portfolio. So I do plan uh, to do a little bit of a more vegetation heavy environment
Mm-hmm.
project this year for sure.
So something else also I was curious about too, because you have a really beautiful portfolio. You have a lot of nice
Mhm.
artworks, and like when you were going into environment art, did you know that you wanted to go towards more of a realistic style, or did you kind of fall into it, or did you just started out stylized and then chose realistic? Because I know the stuff you did for Dead by Daylight is like it's like stylized realistic a little bit.
Yeah, it's let's say that it's in the realm of realism for sure, because we use the PBR pipeline. It's
Okay.
the materials, they need to be realistic, and
Mm-hmm.
also the proportions. They are not stylized in the sense that for example, real life objects, they'll most likely be very realistic, but we do have some stylized um, assets. For
Yeah.
example, one of the trees that I think I posted my last post on our station.
Oh,
It's a
let's do this. Let's try this out. I haven't done this
oh,
yet.
you're,
Let's see if
yeah,
I
you're
could
gonna
do a
take a
screen
look
share. Yeah, let's just do this. Let me see if I could do this. So
with
is
the
it,
portfolio review.
no, definitely not. I'm definitely not reviewing your portfolio. Definitely not. But I'm glad we get to discuss a little bit. So is this the piece that you're talking about?
Yes, it is.
Let me see. Okay, cool.
So yeah, so if you see the materials, they are all realistic, but obviously the lighting that we use and some assets, for example, this tree, it's well, I hope it's not realistic. I hope we don't have anything like that in the real world, because it's quite scary.
Right? It
It's
is.
a very, yeah. So it's a scary tree.
There
Uh,
we go.
yeah, I think that then
Oh,
it's
okay, that's something else.
advertisement. Advertisement.
Let me see. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean
but then
this is beautiful.
we have more realistic vegetation. Some, but then in the middle we have some very stylized ones.
Hmm.
A lot of gore, a lot of blood, right?
Well, I
And
know.
then in the middle, for example, yeah, this antique buffet. It's very realistic. There's nothing stylized about. It's just we always add a lot of wear and tear, because nothing in Dead by Daylight is new. Everything needs to be, a little bit rough.
Yeah, that's good.
You know,
It's not like hard
it's
surface work.
yeah. I mean, this one it is hard surface, but it needs to look worn. It can't look new.
Got you. Yes, I can see. And so something like this, how long does it typically take you to, create this particular asset? I don't think I've ever asked that of anyone, so I'm always curious about that.
It depends. For this kind of asset, it's only a prop. It's and because it's based in the real world, and I actually had a picture of this asset, and I just copied. It's pretty fast.
Okay.
Maybe with the textures and this, maybe 1 week and a half, 2 weeks the
Okay.
maximum to
And this
do.
is in your workflow is do you typically just focus on this prop and nothing else, or are you going back and forth between other pieces as well?
It depends on because our timeline is how can I say, we do have to output a lot of work in a short period of time. So uh, depending on on the kind of assets that I have, I'll do a first pass on everything. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll work on multiple assets. So that's why sometimes it's hard to gauge
Mm-hmm.
exactly how long I took for a specific asset,
Got you.
because yeah, first, for example, I'll do a first pass, a blocky for all the assets, and then I'll come and I'll start polishing and doing the modeling for
Mm-hmm.
all of them.
Yeah, and this is like straight up from scratch. You like modeled this and everything.
Yes.
Yeah, that's dope. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. So this is a little bit of level art. It's a little bit like playing The Sims. That you
Yeah,
have a blank canvas and then you start placing. So I worked as a level artist on this one.
it's a great example.
Uh,
I never thought of it that way.
yeah, whenever I'm doing level art, I feel like, oh, I'm playing The Sims, and I've always loved playing The Sims.
Yeah, yeah, the game's fun. I miss that game.
Yeah, it's so much fun, and then you're just creating the environment. Of course, for example, this one I knew it had to be a park, some sort of square, and obviously we usually have the block keys from level design, but then it's just a box, and then you need to figure out, okay, what I'm gonna replace this box with. Is it gonna be a bench or some vegetation, or what? It needs to be some sort of blocker. And yeah, it's like
So, I mean, this particular part is set dressing, right?
yes, it's set dressing.
Okay,
Yeah,
there you go. Okay, cool. And
I'm just like, yeah, in terms of how I feel like I'm, whenever I'm doing set dressing, I feel that I'm, you know I'm, I'm doing decor. But
I love this. No, I mean it's so I have so much more, like, working with PlayStation for almost a couple years now, and working closely, not closely, but I mean I'm very familiar with kind of what our hiring teams and our art leads are doing, and kind of learning what they need as far as their team needs and stuff like that, and learning new like terminology and processes and pipeline stuff.
yeah,
Like, I have so much more respect for you guys, because this could be challenging and time consuming, but I think in the end, I mean, it makes for this this beautiful scene right here, and all this, like, so pretty much every single prop in this particular area, like, you like set
yeah.
dressed it. Wow. Yeah, that's
Yes, a
cool.
hand place. It's about storytelling. That's the nice thing about it.
Hmm.
So, for example, on Dead by Daylight, obviously I need to respect some of the gameplay elements. But then you think about, okay, what happened in the scene?
Hmm.
In this specific one, it's Haddonfield. It was based on the Halloween movie. But then we have all
Sure.
the lore of what's the story. So okay, so it was ripped. The entity put the streets in the entity realm. So I thought, okay,
Oh,
maybe people are trying to run away, but then the road is blocked. They
gotcha.
crashed their car. So you start thinking about and what they're doing. So they live in the house. And, maybe this is the place that they go out. They sit on their backyards and have some beers. And
Yeah,
what kind of
yeah,
person lives here? You start thinking about this
that's
when
great.
you're, yeah.
Yeah,
That's how I go about my process.
you have a is your inspiration, your inspo board, like like huge? Like, I'm sure you have like pages and pages of like references.
Yeah, I usually use a software called Pure Ref, or there's uh, or Miro boards.
Oh wait, hold on, I know this
And
one. Oops. Pure, what's it called? Pure
Pure Ref,
REF
yes.
and Miro. I know Miro. Yeah.
Yeah, so I usually use Miro is really good if you're sharing a board with other artists, with your
Mm-hmm.
colleagues, because it's online. Pure Ref, it's software, so it's a local file. Um, but yeah, so then you get your references for the moods, references for the layout. You just start laying there, yeah. And
I
but
love
I
this.
always have the when I'm placing and thinking about what I'm gonna do for level arts, I'm always telling myself the story. Okay, what kind of person lives here? What do they do? How do they? So maybe if they were cooking and something happened, so
Mm-hmm.
maybe I'll just leave some plates here and
Right.
there.
Yes. Yeah, I could totally imagine that. Like, you do have to have quite an imagination and just be really creative. Like, I love that too, because when we give environment tests for our teams, like, that's what our leads want to see, is like your ability to tell a story.
Yes.
rather than just make things like, look pretty. It's like, what's going on here? So yeah, I love that.
Exactly. People forget, but the environment is another character. So you have the characters. I mean, the people. When you say character, what people think is about like the human figures or the animals or whatever. But environment is another character. Is a third character in your game, and it's very important for you to treat it like so because. Yeah, as you mentioned, if it's as in the game that I work, it's a horror game. So I always need to think about what were the people doing and how they behaved in that place, and
Hmm.
is it clean, is it dirty, right? You always have to imagine that kind of.
And while you're working, what are some of the challenges that you encounter while, if it's working on an asset or just kind of anything in your process? Like, what are some of the challenges that you face?
Some of the challenges. I feel that it depends on the project. In my case, it depends on each map, but you have to make sure that things look consistent. So when you're working, and especially for environments, it's not, for example, like a character. If you're a character artist, you're assigned a character to model, and then you're going to do your character from start to finish. An environment is a team effort. So my work is only as good as everybody else's. So it's a very collaborative job. You need to be on top of things. You need to see what your colleague is doing, share information, and make sure that everybody, if we're doing similar assets or assets that are connected somehow, that that you can see and okay, look and see that they come from the same place. Otherwise, if people are doing too much of their own thing and not sharing, they look disconnected, right? So this is like a big challenge is making sure that everybody is,
Communicating.
communicating and collaborating for sure.
Are you working on site, or is everyone working remotely?
I'm doing hybrid right now. Well, I was purely remote when I was in Brazil, but now that I'm back in Montreal, I go to the office twice or three times a week.
Oh, okay,
But
cool.
yeah, I have colleagues that do the same. Some are 100% at the office, and some are 100% remote. So
I see.
meetings are always online.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
still on.
So probably, I mean, yeah, communication, especially when, I mean, what do you think? Do you feel like working fully remote is better for communication, like, or as far as like getting things done, or do you think it's better when people are in the office, so you could just kind of like tap on someone's shoulder, and be like, hey, I need some help with this, or I have a question about this?
This is like the nice thing about working at the office, that obviously if you have a question, just tap someone in the shoulder. Hey, can you just come here? We can just take a look. It is nice, but at the same time, I feel that you can achieve a nice collaborative environment if everybody is on top of things and sharing, if you have a dedicated chat for that. And meetings are important, but it's nice if you can keep just they're concise. You don't need to have an hour-long meetings for
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Those are always hard to avoid. Like, for whatever reason, we're gonna have those 1 hour long meetings, and it's like at the end, it's like, what do we accomplish here?
Yeah, exactly. the classic, this could have been an email kind of thing.
Exactly. It's so weird too, because like I feel like people are more responsive via chat than they would be if I were to like send an email out while I was in the office. Like that's been kind of my experience, even like, you know, working at other places, like even though they work in the same building or it could be like next door to me.
Yeah.
Like I'll send an email out like expecting a response, and like a couple days later I get something back, and it's like sometimes I'll just go over there and just like ask the question. But for some reason, like I don't know if everyone, because we're like in the texting age, you know, like that everyone is like super responsive when you're messaging people. Like I found that kind of interesting.
Yeah, I feel that also. Yeah, messaging is more informal, and then you can just answer in a with one sentence or even two words. If sometimes it's just a yes or no question, so you can, you know, give a one word answer. Whereas if somebody's writing to you an email, you feel the obligation of writing proper sentences.
Oh yeah, that's so true. Yeah. Dear,
and then
dear
regards.
Vivian. Yeah, best regards at the end.
Yours truly.
Oh shit, it's funny. Oh my god. Yeah. So I mean, like, you've been. Let's see. How long have you been there? You've been at Behavior for almost 3 years.
Yeah, it'll be 3 years.
Yeah.
In September.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. How? I mean, what are you liking about? Like, what's your favorite thing about it? I mean, just working in general, or even the studio. You know.
Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty chill environment. I really like that about Behavior. I have a lot of freedom in the sense that they don't they're not obligating anyone to either work remotely or hybrid. You have a choice, and I don't have set days to go to the office. Even if I chose the hybrid mode, I can go whenever I want.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's not like on Mondays and Wednesdays you have to be here. No, I don't. If I feel like going, I do. And what else? And they allow me to work from abroad, which is amazing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, oh, that must be a Canadian thing, but I think Ubi is making people come back into the office. Did you hear that? Was that right?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I know that a lot of studios are requesting people to, you know, go back. Maybe not full time, but they have set days for people to go, which is
that's tough.
You know, whenever you're trying to control people like that, if you know, after the pandemic, where people were forced to be at home, and you know, everything worked.
You totally could work.
Yeah. People are not going to be happy about it. Yeah. A Behavior, I feel that they are trying to, you know, do more things to incentivize people to go back. For example, now we have free meals, breakfast and lunch every day.
Whoa, that's awesome.
Prepared by a chef.
What? Dang, that's awesome.
So, which is nice. Sometimes I go to the office because I see the menu and I was like, wow, I want to try that. I'm going to the office just to eat.
Dang, I love that. I like that a lot. Yeah. I always get the question about like what the culture is like at PlayStation. And of course, like I'm not a game dev, so I can't speak to that specifically. And additionally, like a lot of the roles at Visual Arts, we have are fully remote. Like everyone is working fully remote, so it's kind of hard to explain like what the culture is. I mean, for the most part, it's very chill, and everyone is like I haven't run into any crazy like issues or problems with hiring managers or artists or anything like that. And everyone lets you kind of be who you are and kind of do what you do. Like, you know, they're not hovering over you, even though it's fully remote. Like they're not demanding and stuff like that. So it's always hard to kind of like explain when you're not in person what the culture is like. Yeah, but I think that's awesome what you guys have, like have them cooking for you like that. That is really cool.
It is nice, yeah, especially during the week, you know, because sometimes it's such a hassle when I'm home. Like it comes lunchtime. I'm like, oh no, I have to make something, prepare something for my.
You're gonna be so spoiled now. You're not gonna want to make anything now.
I know it's already happening.
You're like, can I get the chef's like number and just like see if he's available, he or she's
Yeah.
available?
Can they Uber Eats my meal
Right?
today?
Oh my god, so jealous, man.
Yeah, it's a it's a nice thing for sure.
I love that. And how big is the studio?
It's quite big. I think we're over 1,000.
Oh my god, yeah, that's a
Yeah,
lot. Wow.
it's a lot. I think it's we're the biggest Canadian like independent like Canadian studio like
Oh great.
independent studio
Okay.
because obviously we have Ubisoft here that has I don't know thousands and
Oh
thousands
yeah,
of people. Yeah,
yeah,
obviously, but they're not from Canada.
yeah. I love that. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, it kind of feels like it does. It kind of like seems like it's not like a huge like corporate entity. Your studio.
No, it doesn't feel. I
It
mean,
doesn't feel
it
like that.
feels it feels corporative for sure. Because when you have that many people, you need to do, you know, you need to have a very good structure. Otherwise, it
There you
becomes a
go.
mess.
Yes.
So you do feel the structure of being a bigger company, um, but at the same time, you have because it's I don't know maybe because they're from here. You do feel that some things are more. You have a little bit of vibes of the smaller studios sometimes, which is
That's
nice.
lovely. That's awesome. Sweet. And so, kind of going back to your work and kind of your workflow. Like, what are some of the tools that you use like on the daily?
Well, for modeling, I use Maya,
Hmm.
and and then the engine that we're currently using my project is still Unreal Engine 4.
Oh,
Unfortunately, yeah, we're not using 5 yet. I'm hoping that maybe in the future
yeah,
we'll be
yeah,
switching to 5. Yeah, nobody ever said anything about switching to 5, but it's I'm hopeful.
yeah. Because it looks pretty dope.
Yes, and then I no don't need to worry too much about poly count. Would be amazing.
Mm,
But I use, as I mentioned before, I'm using Speed Tree quite a lot. I've become the vegetation artist in the team. So um, my screen keeps turning off. Oh my god! Yes, and Substance Painter. Whenever I have to do, yes, textures, it's unique textures. But working in bigger structures, we ended up using the tileable kind of workflow, and then I use Substance Painter just to create a mask, uh, and the textures I use from the materials that are already existing in the engine.
and what was the name of the vegetation? What was the name of that software that you use again?
Speed Tree,
How do you spell that?
speed, speed tree altogether.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, cool. I'm just gonna note it.
Yeah, it's a very very useful software for creating vegetation. It's node based, so it's indestructible, kind
Oh,
of.
okay.
Yeah, which is really really nice. Because since it's node based, you generate the branches, and you have the parameters uh, to uh, to change. So then it creates the shape that you want.
Mm-hmm.
But you obviously can go manual and just correct a few things if you like to. But it's much much faster than if you go through a traditional method in a modeling software of how to model a tree or vegetation. And then
Mm-hmm.
working with curves, and it's a mess, and then it's just too much. It's very time consuming.
Yes, and I think that's why a lot of juniors I've noticed, like personally from looking at portfolios, they'll hop into the Quixel library, and like for that added touch of vegetation, they'll go to the library and put it into their environment. Which is, I guess it's understandable. But I did imagine that it's like very time consuming, especially to make it look as natural as possible within the environment.
Yeah, if you're going, through the routes of modeling software, for example, Maya, it's very time consuming. Even to do a very simple tree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And make it look natural without, looking like sausages or whatever, and people, they make it too round sometimes with the curve, so it looks like spaghetti or
I'm used to seeing like the flat leaves, like in old GTAs. Like I remember, like, there's like no depth to the trees. It's just like kind of looking like flat.
It's just it's more like a billboard situation.
Yes. I remember that. Oh my God, we've come so far.
Yes, it's incredible how far we've come. So it's been really nice.
So would you happen to be in like any either like when you were starting out or now, are you in any involved in any game orgs?
No, not really.
No.
Game works
like organizations.
No.
Like
I've participated in some gatherings of there was one here in Montreal called Pixel. It was for women in games. So before, when I was a student, I went to some other gatherings, which was really nice. So you could, talk with people already in the industry, get advice, network. But that was before the pandemic, right? But after so I'm not sure. I stopped following or if they're still doing any of these gatherings. But
okay. That's cool. Yeah, now I've noticed there are a ton of Discord communities people are taking advantage of now. And I don't know if you've ever hopped on Discord before, but there's like all these different channels that you could have on your server, and with like different topics. And there are a lot of Discord channels that have a ton of resources and, the ability to like, communicate with other people who are in the industry, ask like questions and things like that. So I think Discord is like a big thing now.
Yeah, I don't normally use Discord. I've used before, but it's just, I think it's a lot. I can't follow. It's just so much.
It is a lot. It is overwhelming, right? And then they have all these emojis and like these animated emojis. I'm like, it's super like overwhelming. You're right.
It's very busy. For me, it's like,
yes.
I think I used Discord when I was in school. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But after a while,
I've gotten used to it. It's like, because it's actually nice. Like I joined a channel that has like a ton of great resources on it too. So I hop on there, and I think I just have been able to like ignore like all the animated GIFs that are like, looking all busy in front of me. I just ignore it now. So
but it's nice. I'm sure there's a lot of information there, and it's a good way of getting to know people. Maybe it's just me that I'm after work hours, I'm a little bit disconnected.
Got you. No, I don't blame you. Yeah, right. Like you probably don't even want to see a screen for at least a couple hours.
Yeah, it is actually. I try to disconnect for a bit and try to do things that are not in front of a screen. But it's tough, right? Let's be honest, it's tough. Yeah.
Because you got to decompress somehow. So it's like, well, I could watch TV or Netflix, but you don't want to be in front of a screen, but you still want to relax.
Yeah, I know. I've tried doing origami, those kind of
Oh, that's
crafts.
cool.
Yeah, it's nice. I have tons of origami paper now that I,
You know how to do origami, really?
yeah, I was, well, basic ones, but the problem was it's super fun. It's something artistic. It's cute. It was something that I was really enjoying doing. But then I was ending up with so much origami, and then I didn't know where to put it.
It's everywhere.
It's yeah, and and then I felt sorry. I was like, am I gonna just throw it away,
Oh, did you
right?
throw them
Because,
away?
well, some of them I did.
Oh.
Some I put in my husband's work desk, so he
Mm-hmm.
has like tons of origami hanging around. But funny enough, I don't have any in my desk. I put some in the living room. I took
Oh.
some to the office. I gave
Uh-huh.
to some colleagues.
That's
But yeah,
cool. You know, that reminds me of, I just had a flashback to the game Heavy Rain. It
I
has
didn't play this one.
it's, I think it's a Quantum Dream studio that
Okay, yes.
developed it. And the title menu screen is, and also the cover art is a origami piece. I think it's a
Oh,
I think
nice.
it's a crane, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I can do the frame.
You could do the crane.
That's
That's like
yeah.
the one that, like the first ones that they teach you.
Yes, possibly.
That's so cool. I love that. Yeah, my YouTube and gaming like COD, and it's still my way of decompressing. I think I'm okay in front of a screen, as long as it's not work related. I'm totally fine.
Yes.
Is there any kind of advice you would give? Any kind of general advice, like going into the career, or maybe any kind of portfolio advice, like just kind of anything that you think would be helpful for them as they're going through their journey, as you are?
Yes, that's true. Well, I think I'd say the first, it's a more of a generic advice. It is important to look after many aspects of what a career in arts means, right? It's pretty much it's an artistic career, but so you need to be good at what you do. That's first of all. It's getting a degree or doing a course. It's not enough,
Mhm.
right? So you need to work on your portfolio. That's the I think if people that are trying to get their foot at the door at the studios, you need to work on your portfolio. It, that's the first thing before, well, you're a recruiter, so before you actually see where did this person go to school, you want to see their portfolio.
Yep.
They could have been at the best school, but if their portfolio doesn't show, uh, it's it's not going to happen, right? um, and so focus on learning new techniques, improving the quality of your work, and it's always quality over quantity for sure. When you're showcasing something. Um, Something that I see a lot on LinkedIn is people that are studying and they start posting their work in progress or their, which is nice. It is nice to post some work in progress, but it's also nice to filter. You don't need to post everything that you do.
Mm.
Just post the best, but because you do have to practice a lot, and many times, and then you get maybe one thing that is okay, this one is good, then this is portfolio worthy, and then you go and post. So this is something that people that are starting and building their portfolio, it's very good advice that I see that a lot of people don't follow because they want to have a full portfolio and they want to have like lots of items, and it's not actually important to have that many things in your portfolio if they're just average or not good. Networking is really important. So if in your city you have some sort of event happening, game jams, if people already are, they're already starting in the industry. Or for example, here in Montreal, we have some game conferences one is called Mega Mix. It's really nice because you're gonna have a lot of studios and they're represented, people from the studios representing them, either recruiters or artists. So you get to talk to them, learn a little bit about the projects that they're working. Some of them will be nice enough and give you some, tips and tricks on how to get an interview or what they're actually looking for. So I feel it's very important to go out there and speak to people. I know that some people may be shy, but it's nice for you at least to go and see these in-person events. It's important. And something you just mentioned, getting your portfolio reviewed, get feedback. It's very, very important to get more of a professional opinion, someone that's been in the industry for a while. Because and also focus. Your portfolio needs to be focused on what you want to do. If you want to do, as we talked in the beginning, my portfolio is focused only on realism. Obviously, we mentioned that By Daylight has some stylized things, but they are all based in realism because I want to work in realistic games. But if you want to work in a stylized game, you need to have a portfolio that reflects what you want to do, right? Pretty much, if the recruiter is looking for someone that is really good in realism and you have an awesome portfolio in stylized, most chances are you're not going to be considered at all for the job, right? Yeah, because I see that people do that a lot in the beginning. They want to try their chances in everything, so they have a little bit of everything in the portfolio. So you're not sure what kind of work this person does or what are they interested. Maybe it's a good idea to do 2 different reels, or maybe you can put together a stylized reel if you're good in both, right?
It's a great idea.
Having them all together, it's very confusing. Yeah,
that's great advice. I also see that all the time as well. And I will ask the person which, what are you leaning more towards? Would you like to be an environment artist, a character artist? Do you want to do 2D? Do you want to do 3D? Stylized or realistic? Like sometimes they're kind of, they're like, I don't know. I didn't really think about that. And I guess I could understand because, especially if they're just finishing, like a game art program, they have them do everything so that they could kind of understand on a foundational level how to create stuff. So like I get that, but then, after a couple years, I kind of feel like they should have more of a sense of what they want to do. So, and they always ask me, they're like, well, what do you think I should do? Should I do realistic? I'm like, I don't know. Or they're like,
not up to me.
What do the studio like? What does PlayStation want? I'm like, do what you want to do. Like you have to, you got to pick. It's not like you're limiting yourself, but I always tell people like whatever you're drawn towards, like go after that. Like when you find yourself like losing time when you're creating something, like what is that you're making that you just forgot like 5 hours pass and you like finish this project. So that's what I like to tell them because that's really what they should be doing. And because then when they actually are in the industry, they're not going to be feeling like it's a chore, or even feel like it's like a job because it's something that they're naturally drawn to and they love doing.
Yes, especially if you're already choosing career in arts, it means that, you want to do something that you're passionate about, right? Mm-hmm. So, but I understand, but it is nice to showcase that, you have other abilities for sure. But you need to be more focused.
Yes. Yeah. No, I totally agree. And that's a really great idea. I will pick off of that. And for any of those who have, who don't know which way to go with stylized or realistic, that they should create like 2 different reels. Or if on ArtStation, I know you could organize your stuff and use separate tabs. So if you have like a realistic and a stylized tab, like, yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I think it's one way of being more organized it's an easier thing for the recruiter, and I think it gives you a better chance as well.
Is there any last words, pieces of advice, thoughts, like kind of anything for anyone out there who's coming up in game dev, who's having a hard time, especially now, like I mentioned before, it is a tough time for a lot of game studios.
Yeah.
They're laying people off. They're also like not extending contracts, so they're shuffling to find like a new home. So yeah, just really any thoughts or any advice for that?
Well, I'd say that if people that are, for people that are just starting off, it is a great career, even though, as you mentioned, it's a bit tough. I think especially in the US. Here in Canada, yeah, I think things are a little bit more slow, but it's still, I think it's an industry that has a lot of potential, and games it's only going to grow. I don't see, even with the AI, I know that people are a lot. That's a whole other conversation, another hour.
That's true. Yes.
Yeah, but I don't think that's gonna happen or gonna affect our work anytime soon. Maybe it's gonna actually help us. We're gonna have more tools, or even better software to work with. But yeah, just keep on studying, being updated with it's a kind of, I mean, with anything, but especially if you work with technology, you need to be on top of things. You need to never be satisfied. Okay, I went to school and that's it. You need to be taking courses and updating yourself. It's very, very important not to be not to feel too comfortable. Make sure that you're always on top of things.
Yeah,
that's the advice that I would give to anyone that wants to pursue a career in games.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, being a lifelong learner is important. Especially like you could get comfortable, especially if you're lucky enough to be at a studio for 2, 3, 5, 7 years. You could get a little complacent, but if you're always learning new tools, just like what you said, making sure you're on top of what's going on in the industry with AI, I think that's great. You should definitely be doing that. And thank you again so much, Vivian. I really appreciate your time. I don't want to forget to do this because I want to make sure I put your full name there. Sorry. I know I did.
It's a mouthful. I know
it's all good. But yeah, please, for anyone who's listening, please check out Vivian's work. We looked at her portfolio on our station just a little bit, but please check her out on our station and on LinkedIn. Reach out. I'm sure you'd be okay. Answering any questions anybody has if they do hit you up.
It's always a pleasure, to answer any questions that people might have.
Awesome. All right,
Thank
Vivian.
you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you again. You have a good one.
You too, Zach. Thank you for having me.
All
Bye.
right.
Take care.
Bye.